50th running, or the 50th season of the Pro Stock category, and one of its finest drivers, Erica Enders, will be part of round 1 eliminations, and she hopes to be part of final round eliminations as well. Welcome back to Pomona, California. One of the neatest things about this drag strip is the fact that the NHRA Wally Parks Motorsports Museum is adjacent to it. It's walking distance. In fact, you can leave the grandstands and be in the museum in just a matter of minutes. It is the home to some of drag racing's most significant cars, celebrating drag racing's significant milestones over the course of its history. And if we're talking milestones, we're talking 50 years of Pro Stock Eliminator. The very first Pro Stock race was held in 1970, and these two guys are in the final, Bill Grumpy Jenkins and Ronnie Sox. Jenkins driving his 1968 Camaro with a 430 cubic inch all aluminum big block Chevrolet and a 4-speed transmission. Of course, it was Sox and the Hemi powered Mopar, and it was going to be Grumpy beating him on a hole shot in the final. It was a great day for him, and it launched a category that has existed for half a century. Our latest world champion in the Pro Stock Eliminator category, Erica Enders, hoisted the trophy at Pomona last year. A dramatic first-round win over Greg Anderson, and then a win over Chris McGahey got her that championship trophy. Only 2 wins last season. It was an amazing thing to view. And then the finals, it wasn't Erica that won the race. It was this man, Jed Coughlin, who came here, took names, and won the Wally to close out the season. He begins the 2020 season as the #1 qualifier at the Winternationals. They love Pomona, California. He broke news here in Pomona, California by revealing that he is going to retire from Pro Stock drag racing at the end of the season. The car is not going anywhere, though. There will be another person with the last name of Coughlin in the driver's seat of this machine once the 2020 Breaking Barriers Tour is over. And he began the 2020 run with a good one as he locked in the #1 qualifying position, making the quickest run of his weekend during final qualifying on Saturday afternoon in beautiful conditions. You know, Pro Stock drivers, they change gears going down the racetrack. And this season, when we cover Pro Stock Eliminator, we're going to be changing gears by bringing Bruno Massel into the booth. He's going to be calling the runs with me, but he caught up with Jed Coughlin earlier this weekend in the pits.
To put into context how well Jed Coughlin has done here this weekend, the guy that was qualified #2, Derek Kramer, is actually closer to being qualified in #10 than he is to Jed Coughlin. And Jed, you kick off your retirement year. You guys have named it Breaking Barriers. How does that tour start today?
Well, we hope to hurt a lot of feelings for starters, without question. You know, Richard Freeman and the group have done an excellent job over the winter, and you know, we made a few test runs in Bradenton, Florida. Car felt amazing. My nephew Troy Jr. made several laps after I did, so we came in here really well prepared. A little bit of a new engine combination from Bradenton to here, and took a couple runs to sort it out, and really fired a shot there in Q4. So, you know, today's a new day. We got a little bit of sun out, which is nice. That'll put a little warmth in the track, because on these cool days we do need some warmth in the track. So we got that going for us, and I think you know, we just got to stay focused, stay disciplined, and see if we can't go the distance.
Well, a little bit of breaking news out of the Pro Stock pits this morning. Your 3-time champion, Erica Enders, is waking up with flu-like symptoms. We were over here to interview her, and they denied us being able to talk to the 3-time champ this morning.
We're back to the starting line. Greg Anderson, Chris McGahey, and I'm joined, as I mentioned, by Bruno Massel. Bruno, you didn't cut your hair or lose about a foot of height. That was actually not you doing that interview.
No, I don't look that good on camera.
So we're going to talk about Bruno's plans for this year, but first let's see what Chris McGahey and Greg Anderson can dial us up here. Round 1 eliminations in Pro Stock begin now. Reaction times within 4th. Whoa, Anderson's car got very loose down there. It wiggled the tail about 1,000 feet. Chris McGahey, 659 at 209.52. And Bruno, we often talk about McGahey advancing, Anderson coasting to the finish line. We talk about the nitro cars getting loose. We rarely see a Pro Stock car do that.
You do. You know, you got right now. You've got 76-degree track temp. That's on the starting line. We don't know what the track temp is down track. These cars are very light in the back. They've got very little downforce, almost at a point where it's 0 downforce, where you're at a point you go into lift. If you look at Greg Anderson's car right there, you can see the back end start to come around. Greg, an experienced driver, at that point knows that it's not worth pushing any further. Pushes in the clutch and saves that car so he can move on to Phoenix.
Back-to-back first-round losses here. He lost to the World Finals, loses at this race, and also lost first round at the Winters last year. Now we look at our ladder and how that's going to shape up. How about Kenny Delco and Val Smealan, the teammates, having to race each other? We look to the right side. I like Line and Laughlin. You got Jason Line, who's going to be getting out of the driver's seat at the end of this 2020 season. And we can look at the Summit Racing Equipment team on the starting line. They are rolling their Camaro backward. because I believe they're going to be making a lane switch here. As yes, that's exactly what they're doing. Talk to me about this, Bruno.
You know, he saw right now what Greg Anderson did. I'm sure they got on the radio and said, Greg, you know, what happened? Did you hurt anything come out of the car? And he just probably radioed back at this point and said, you know, the car's loose out there, so we're going to switch lanes. You know, there's bumps in every track has a little bit of characteristic to it, right? We call it personality. Might be a little personality more in that left lane about 1,000 feet than there is in the right. So why try and risk it? You're going to send your teammate down the other lane and give him what they feel is going to give him a better shot. He's got lane choice. Why not use the data you just received from Greg and parlay it hopefully into a victory for Jason.
Before we grabbed you by the ear and dragged you into the booth, you caught up with Jason Line earlier in the pits.
One of the big stories out of Pro Stock over the winter is the talk of Jason Line stepping away from the driving duties of his Summit Racing Camaro. Jason, one of the winningest drivers in the history of the class. This is going to be your last start at Pomona, the Winternationals. Feeling a little nostalgic this morning?
Not yet, but you know, maybe I will as the day goes on. But you know, it's always fun to come out here and race. I love this place.
So the reasons why you're stepping away, just to put more focus on the engine building program, or are you just tired of beating everybody's butt?
Well, I'm tired of Bo Butner. He's kind of worn me out. So no, just a lot of reasons really. But you know, hopefully I can contribute you know, better from the engine shop than I can from the driver's seat. So that's my plan.
Well, I'm telling you something, the competition is probably a little happier when you step outside of the driving compartment.
I don't think they'll miss me.
Oh, we'll all miss you, you big lug, as we look down at Jason Line's Summit Racing Equipment Silver Camaro. So Alex Laughlin is now on that other side of the racetrack. Do you think he saw what happened to Greg's car?
Oh, if he didn't see it, this group here person just told him about it and told him to be aware when you go down the racetrack, because sometimes if you're not aware for it, it'll get away from you really quick. These cars are suspension in them. So once you start to get, you basically have one correction on the steering wheel is all you get with a suspended car. The second time you're in trouble.
Amanda is with Greg Anderson at the top end.
Greg, there was a lane switch at the starting line. What would you recommend to drivers at this point?
Pull your seatbelts very, very tight. Everything was A-OK, perfect, right in the center of the racetrack till I got to fourth gear, and then it was impassable. It was like going on a sheet of ice. So I don't know what to say. I'm lucky I got a Summit Chevy to look at still. It was very close. Had my hands full there, and I hope everybody else makes it down safe, but really no excuse for that. It should not be that bad out there.
It only takes a couple of degrees of yaw in a car like this, and things go immediately and utterly wrong.
Yeah, like I said before, you've got one correction. The second time you're in trouble, the way the suspension starts to work because of the body or rotation of it. You know, one of the things these teams can be doing right now, we're taking a look at least I would, is the wicker bill. You know, is trying to get a little more wicker bill, a little more downforce. It doesn't take a lot to make a difference in handling these cars.
So that wicker bill right on the end of the race car there, it doesn't seem like much, but boy, it does act like a kind of a invisible hand forcing the back of the car down as it goes down the racetrack. Boy, killer reaction time for Line. Let's pay attention. Laughlin's car powers through that trouble spot, but it's Jason Line on a hole shot. How about that? 656.9, 209, wins by 41 10,000ths. Laughlin 656.1 at 210.
Now, if you looked at, I studied really closely at Alex Laughlin's car there, and that car stayed glued all the way down, right down the middle of the racetrack. It looks like there's no problems with the racetracker. Maybe they just have a better handle on that setup, the way the suspension is set down track.
We don't normally talk about Jason Line being a hole shot artist. He's a horsepower maker, but the Mello Yello Go on Yellow hole shot win for this race on this first round of Pro Stock goes to the man in the silver Summit Racing Chevrolet. Nice way to begin his season. And Laughlin wasn't late. He was 0.37, a competitive reaction time. The margin of victory, 41 10,000ths at the stripe. You were going to compete in this category 6 times this year. You got to be cognizant of the hole shot.
Yes, you do. You know, the cars are so evenly prepared. The power is so good that the driver who leaves first, whether he's got a slower reaction time, that's what a hole shot is. He's got a quicker reaction time, a slower elapsed time. He gets that hole shot win because these lanes are timed independently. You've got to be on your game from A to B in one of these cars. And I don't think people realize how delicate these cars are to drive, how you're on the razor's edge, and how much influence a driver has in overall winning and losing. Obviously, you've got to have the power, but these cars are prepped so close. The driver often, you know, dictates the outcome right there in the cockpit.
Aaron Stanfield and Matt Hartford on the starting line. Hartford Toyota side of the racetrack. Stanfield on the E3 Sparkplug side. Aaron Stanfield running his first full season as a Pro Stock competitor. Came on for about a half dozen races last year. Certainly did a nice job for himself. And Matt Hartford has made a big switch over the offseason, going from Elite Motorsports engines to KB, which is a significant, you're going from the Hatfield family to the McCoy family here, basically.
You know, when I talked with Matt about this season, he had nothing ill to say about the Elite team in any way. He finished 5th. There's that number 5 on the car that gave him good power, but he said he'd been with it for 2 years and just wanted to try something different. Maybe they've got something, they got 20 more that Elite doesn't have. I don't know if that's the case, but he said he stepped into it, and he's at least where he was when he left off, and they approach things a little differently. He's got a different mindset, and a little input from Jason Line, which he thinks might help him out early in the season.
Both cars sit in pre-stage idling.
Look at that. Hartford 007 to 66 for Aaron Stanfield. Aaron's a good driver. Usually doesn't get left on like that, but that was all Matt Hartford on the start line. There's the whole shot win right there again. 662 beats a 657. That is going to hurt.
That is, no other way to say it, Aaron Stanfield just got sawed off at the knees up there. Man, that is a time slip you want to crease in half and tear your side and chuck it.
Matt Hartford, though, I mean, great launch for him. Not the kind of numbers he's looking down track, but he bought himself enough real estate there at the starting line, and there is the whole shot win for Matt Hartford.
Matt Hartford had 6 whole shot wins in 2019. He now officially has 1 under his belt here to kick off 2020. Hartford going to climb out of that race car and get started on the preparation for round number 2. We're going to come back with more Pro Stock Eliminator round 1 action from Pomona after this. We are back here at Auto Club Raceway at Pomona. We are part of the 60th running of the Lucas Oil Winternationals. It's Bo Butner and Steve Graham leaving the starting line. And Bo Butner has major problems. The biggest upset of the day so far. Steve Graham of South San Francisco, California, ain't going back home yet.
No, I mean, look at the numbers from him. 004 in the tree. He runs a 661 at 208. He's got good power from Chris McGahey and his whole team this year. Really, really big run for him and a huge upset. The defending champ goes out. The car looks like it just bogs it on the starting line. I mean, the clutch setting was just wrong, and Bo told me they were struggling with some gremlins in the car here this weekend, and that really showed its face right there.
He gave it the old college try after the fact, and the car still ran 207 miles an hour, but Steve Graham was off like a shot, and he will advance. Remember last year in the 2019 season, Bo Butner came out and the guy couldn't lose over the first quarter of the Pro Stock season. He won here. He won basically everywhere he showed up at. A market change of direction.
You know, and for him, not only was he winning just in the Pro Stock car, he was winning everything he was driving, from his factory stock car, which was just eating people up, to the super gas car he hops in for the first time in Sonoma and takes home the Wally. A charmed existence early in the season for Bo Butner. It didn't last the entire duration of the season as it usually does, and you get ebbs and flows, but Bo was so hot at the beginning of the season. He was unstoppable.
He was a top 10 finisher winning the Gainesville race. He was a top 10 finisher because he won the Las Vegas race, then he went on to win Virginia, but he was also a top 10 finisher in that factory Superstock car and top 10 in the world in super gas. Like you said, this guy kind of hit for some sort of weird drag racing triple crown. He was so good.
If you flash back to that 4-wide win, it was a triple hole shot win. When do you see that happening? That's how Bo Butner raced early in the season. Could do no wrong. Obviously a tough start for the season right here.
Amanda Busick's with Bo at the top end.
Well, Bo, just initial problems for you at the hit. Were you aware that there was going to be issues on that run?
No, I've never. I mean, 5.5 years of racing these, I've never had that early. But it's not the way we want to start the season. But can't complain. The last 2 years we've done well here, and it's a long season, so we have to get to work.
A team that is getting to work right now is the team of Erica Enders, a Melling Performance car, the defending world champion. Enders looking to get off to a quick start here. She has one of the Quadra boys on the other side of the racetrack. This is Christian Quadra. Of course, the Fightin' Quadra family, they come out here now with 3 full-time Pro Stock cars, a new engine program with Nick Ferry, and they're still in the development stage of that engine program. Erica's not any longer in the development stage of anything anymore.
No, she's in the perfection stage at this point in her career. I mean, from the driving standpoint to the people that got around her and the horsepower they're making, it'd just be interesting to see how she navigates the starting line. We saw what happened to Bo just a few moments ago. You know, they're on razor's edge right now because the track is just so tight. So the nice thing for her is, from a performance standpoint, you look at qualifying, they have a significant cushion, 5 or 6 hundredths to over a Quadra, which you don't often see in Pro Stock. But you know this case, you pull it back a little too far, you bite yourself. So there's some anxious moments for her right now, especially we'll see how she drives as a sick driver. We saw Matt Hagan doing it this weekend along, and Jack Beckman. It's not an easy thing to do, especially when you talk about Pro Stock. You've got to be so sharp in your game. It's such a precision sport in terms of driving it. Being off a little bit might throw her a little. We'll see how she responds.
One of the things to consider here, too, when we look at the performance of the 2 drivers, the winner here will be facing Matt Hartford, who went 6.628 seconds. 007 reaction time, so we can kind of see what their chances look like. When Erica won her championship last year, she only won 2 races, both of them in the countdown. Lewis Bloom did the research. She's the least winning Pro Stock World Champion ever.
But she is the Pro Stock World Champion. And when the pressure was on against Greg Anderson in the first round, when all eyes were on her, she stepped up and performed, and so did her entire team. And one of the greatest drag races we saw all season long. And that's what's great about Pro Stock right now. There's such a good vibe and good energy into it because of people like Erica Enders and that whole Elite Motorsports team.
20 entries on the ground this weekend trying to qualify for the field, and the numbers will swell from there all through the season. Erica shakes the tires. That car is all over the racetrack. Wow. She drove that thing. She about wore the steering wheel out of it. And thankfully for her, Christian Quadra threw in the towel early. That was creepy.
Yeah, that was really scary. At one flat 60-foot time, you could see the tires shaking. At that point, the suspension is unloaded, and you're just kind of floating trying to get through the gears. Erica's got enough experience in this car. Knew it was smart to click it off. We're going to take another replay. Look at the starting line as she leaves there. The car was never glued to the racetrack. She did a great job pulling it back in the groove, but at that point, she was just sashaying down the racetrack, wasn't in control of the car, and knew no matter what was happening alongside of her, it was time for her to abort the run.
Christian Quadra, a young driver in the category, I give him the presence of mind and credit. He didn't try to overdrive his machine. He does not have near the experience she does.
Yeah, drove the car like an experienced person. Like I said, with these cars, they're so loose. You've got a suspension in them. At one point, you're better off. Once you get the first correction, you're better off just shutting off and moving on to another day because the momentum of the car starts to rock and it wants to come around on you.
Jeg Coughlin saw what happened out there to Erica and said, get me out of here. So they have made a lane swap. So Jeg will move to the right side of the racetrack. His competitor, Joey Groves, will be on the other side of the racetrack as we take a look at some of the runs that preceded Erica's run down the racetrack. Some highlights here from the first round of eliminations. It was two teammates. It was Val Smeeland and Kenny Delco competing against each other. And Kenny Delco, the number 4 qualifier, his best position in qualifying since the 1989 U.S. Nationals, and he impressed us in round 1.
He really did. I mean, from the reaction time there to the performance of this car, it's Frank Iaconio horsepower, one of the other great names in Pro Stock, one of the true gentlemen in the world of drag racing, 007 on the tree, 655. That is a winning package all day long here this weekend.
And if you think Bo Butter had problems on the starting line, keep your eyes on the right-hand side of the racetrack at Derek Kramer. This is the tale of 2 runs. One of them's ugly, and one of them's a Picasso.
Yeah, right after Bo Butner, both KB cars, so you know they've had similar tune-ups. But look at Fernando Quadro Jr., 002 on the light. We've seen a lot of people just sawing the tree down. Not a big performance number, but he got down the racetrack, and he will move on to the next round.
He has won 2 rounds in his career, both of them over Derek Kramer, and now let's get out of the top end with Erica and Amanda.
Bruno, I just found out that Erica actually has an IV in her arm still. And Erica, we know you're not feeling well today. What part that run got your attention?
Once you fire the car and shut the door, everything somehow magically disappears, and it's like that for every race car driver. But out there, it just got really loose on me. It hooked on me. We've been having trouble with this Melling Performance car getting it to go straight, but I tried to reel it back in, and it just got over there in the marbles, and I looked over to see if he was there. I pedaled it, obviously, and at the last point, I just had to get my parachutes out to save the car. So I'm glad that we got the first round win for this Melling Performance team, but it was by no means a pretty one.
We saw you pick up your championship jacket in your ring earlier today in front of this crowd. What was that like for you?
Amanda, it was amazing. It was a really cool experience, and then to watch that highlight video of our 2019 season together, it's a really great way to start a Sunday. I'm just hopeful that it's a long one. Thank you.
Bruno, as we mentioned, you'll be sharing the racetrack with both Erica and Jeg Coughlin is on the starting line, and we know Jeg is going to step away from the seat. As a guy who loves his class, loves the sport of drag racing, going to give you a little chill that you may be lined up next to this guy at some point.
I've never raced in the sportsman category. He's a very dear, close friend of mine, family friend. I've known him a long time. I'm actually excited about the opportunity because to go out there and do something, you have to beat somebody who is someone. And this, in my eyes, is the class of the sport, has been for a long time. One, I think his first race behind the wheel of a Pro Stock car. I mean, that doesn't happen often. And guys, just a good guy. We have a good time together. You've seen that in Brainerd. And those are the kind of people you want to race against.
Joey Groves seeking his first career round victory. Groves was out second behind Coughlin, and as we get to the finish line stripe, Jeg Coughlin begins the Breaking Barriers tour by breaking a win-light open round 1. 6.542 seconds at 2:10. Joey Groves 6:70.
Jeg Coughlin has been quick of every single round of qualifying, and there he goes quick for the first round of eliminations. You don't want to be racing Jeg Coughlin Jr. when he's got that kind of performance out of his Camaro.
And I'm going to say this out loud. You don't want to be racing Kenny Delco in round 2 right now because that guy's swinging some heavy punches as well. He will be facing off against Steve Grant Graham. Other side of the ladder, it is Fernando Quadra Jr. taking on Jason Line, and then Erica Enders and Matt Harford. They tangled last year. They'll tangle again.
It'll be interesting to see what kind of adjustments are made by the whole Elite Motorsports team. They've got a lot of data. They can go off of Jeggy's car, maybe just getting into the other lane or try and steal some of that tune-up, but they'll be back strong, that's for sure.
Now down to the pits. We took Tony Pedregon, put him back down to his natural habitat. He is in the Nitro pits, and he's at Leah's car right now.
In Top Fuel, while most of the higher qualifiers did advance to the second round, it wasn't without some work from the drivers. Many of them encountered tire shake, requiring them to get off and back on the throttle. Not the case for this Leah Pritchett Mopar machine. Todd, while I won't insult you and ask you what specifically you did to this car, but can you share with us how many changes were made to get down a racetrack that was 20 degrees colder?
Well, you will only get a few runs on these track temperatures like this, and the potential is there to run really good, but then the window's also a lot smaller. So, we made sure our motor was really sharp. We freshened our blower up last night, got some clutch weight on the primary, and put some new tires on it, and, we were lucky enough to make the right decisions, So great guys by Leah and the guys, and we'll see what we can do next round.
They will take on Sean Reed in the second round.
So one more look at Leah's brilliant run out of the first round of eliminations as she went down the racetrack. Did not have any of the problems so many of her fellow competitors encountered. They advanced with strength onto round number 2. Sean Reed worked for his round win, so didn't she. It'll be fun to watch them square off. When we come back, we'll be burning nitro. We've seen the Pro Stock drivers pull a lane swap. We're going to pull our analyst swap, get Tony back up here, send Bruno back downstairs, and we'll be throwing header flames into the California afternoon right after this. Welcome back to Auto Club Raceway at Pomona. The Mopar autograph session brought them out in droves this weekend as fan favorite drivers. Those that run bodies or sponsorship with the Mopar brand were out signing autographs. We're talking Cruz Pedregon, Leah, Jack Beckman, of course, the entire slew of them out there. And as I said, the fans love the interactive experience they have in the world of NHRA Mello Yello Championship drag racing. This was one of a dozen-plus autograph sessions from various classes and various champions over the course of the weekend. We return back to the starting line. Top Fuel Eliminator Round 2. It will be Austin Prock, the number 2 qualifier, has a solo run here in the second round as the bye run first went to Brittany Force, the number 1 qualifier. This is the final bye that we will have in eliminations in Top Fuel. Austin Brock made a nice, strong run. He's had a nice weekend running career best ET in speed, so he's already kind of doing things that he has not done yet. Mike Green apparently stepped up the aggression level on the tune-up, and we never saw this car go in the 360s as deep as it did this weekend.
No, they hit everything just right on that last qualifying run, and right now what we're seeing on the racetrack is the track temperature slowly starting to increase. That's going to make it much more manageable for a lot of the teams, unlike that first round that we saw.
Guaranteed a shot into the semifinals. And it looks like they got a good hold of it again. 367, 330.96, rewriting his own performance marks. Austin Prock makes another career best ET run, an 058 reaction time, and this thing is looking exponentially stronger than it was a year ago.
Well, they've got a good racetrack. The conditions are really playing into their hands. So while they may have made a few adjustments in the pits, they also had to rely on the track coming to them. They know that the track surface isn't as tight. It's going to be a little less forgiving. So I'm sure they made some adjustments. They allowed the conditions. They factored that in rather into what they were doing. And they don't have any pressure. They don't have an opponent in the other lane. So they had the freedom of being able to try whatever they wanted. And it does appear that it worked, and it worked well.
So the next pair on the starting line here, we have Clay Milliken, the birthday boy, celebrating his birthday today. And, of course, we have Brittany Forrest on the other side of the racetrack. On this week's NHRA 101 presented by UTI, we talk nitromethane.
CH3NO2, that is the chemical formula for nitromethane, the fuel of choice here in the top fuel categories, both Clay Milliken and all the funny cars and dragsters. The reason why, it quite simply makes more power. 2 equally prepared engines, one burning gasoline, one nitromethane. The nitromethane engine is going to produce up to 3 times the amount of horsepower. One of the reasons why it carries its own oxygen. It's not reliant on the atmosphere to bring oxygen to the fire. But the thing is, it is very hard to light, as Clay Milliken is about to demonstrate. That is nitromethane. That is a torch. That was gasoline. gasoline, we would have a bonfire going on right now. The thing is, if you were to strike that same nitromethane with that mallet, well, it'd be like the 4th of July, because nitromethane requires heat and pressure to ignite. That's why when he starts his car up, he starts it on gasoline, builds cylinder pressure, builds heat, switches over to nitromethane, and then you hear that distinctive cackle. Your nose starts burning and your eyes start crying, and you know that he is about to make 11,000 horsepower.
Great piece there, Bruno. Nitromethane is the reason why we have these incredibly powerful and fast race cars out here. Brittany Force, the Monster Energy car, advancing out of the first round, something she did not do at the 2019 running of the Winternationals. And what I think is cool here is the fact that Brittany Force is the current top fuel record holder. It was Clay Milligan that had the record before.
Yeah, and I think it creates somewhat of a rivalry between these two, but interesting that Brittany Force is in the left lane. She does not have the lane that her teammate just had the luxury of going down, but two tough opponents. The contrast here is Clay Milligan made a full pass, a competitive run. They may have to step it up and hope that this monster car misses the setup a little. If they do what they did in qualifying, it's going to be awful tough for Clay to get around her.
Milligan went 3.731 in the first round. Brittany Force went 8.64 seconds on that single run she had. Milligan will be second to pre-stage on the right-hand side of the racetrack. The right side is where we have seen the most tire shake over the course of the day in the nitro categories. And there it happens again. Milligan, a brilliant pedal job, and it's Brittany Force heading to the semifinals with strength. 3.682 seconds at 3:36, and Tony, the track's got teeth again.
Yeah, that it does. And Brittany's team, they did a nice job recovering. That's one of the cars that did advance, but they did shake the tires. She had to get off on the throttle. Didn't make a good competitive run, but, you know, again, make adjustments. They download all the data onto a computer. They evaluate everything, the fuel pressure, what the clutch did, how it wore, so they can make the proper adjustments. And to your point, Clay Milligan shook the tires. Take a look on your left side. You can see those throttle blades close. They open again. A very nice job of doing it. Had something happened to Brittany's car, he would have been able to catch her, but wasn't the case. She was nearly perfect.
Fans at this 60th running of the Winternationals just saw the fastest top fuel speed in the history of this venue at 336.23 miles an hour. Let's go to the top end with Amanda.
And Brian, Austin Prock had his career best run, but guess what? His team wasn't even impressed with that because he didn't go better than a 57 on the tree. Austin, they're holding you accountable, but what's it like having your team out here supporting you here at the first race?
Oh, it's awesome. You know, to have Frank Teagues and Mick Cheff out here and the whole family with Montana Brand and Rocky Mountain Twist, it's awesome, you know, especially when this thing's running as good as it is. Mike Green and Joe Barlam, they just keep ripping off career best for me. So it's an exciting weekend. Looking forward to the semis.
It is a battle of starting line artistes coming up right now, one of which is in his formative runs, his formative period in Top Fuel drag racing. That is Justin Ashley. And on the left-hand side of your screen, it is Doug Coletta, a man who is known to be so good on the starting line. Tony, I know you like to have kind of a certain number of runs before we start to get judgmental or get analytical on someone's performance, but I think we are past the stage of this being dumb luck for Justin Ashley. This is a kid who is just sawing off 40 reaction times like he's meaning it.
Yeah, and he's going to continue to do that. Some drivers are just better or sharper, I should say, than others, especially on the starting line. Now, today, there are a lot of different things that the tuner can do to get these cars to respond quicker. They can do things to the clutch and to this, what we call an air gap, and that's the spacing that they set the clutch up with, but also with the injector. That right there that opens the throttle blades, there used to be a lip on the bottom. They shaved that lip off because the car reacts not when it sees the fuel or not when it sees the ignition. It's only when it sees the air. That's the initial move. That particular car doesn't have it for Justin Ashley. So what it comes down to is his sheer ability to react not to the green light. You're actually leaving on yellow. As soon as you see that flash of amber, that's when you're going wide open throttle.
And Doug Coletta sitting in the Mac Tools Top Fuel dragster. Doug Coletta can live by an old adage. Roger Ward, a legendary racer, two-time Indy 500 winner, said the mark of a race driver is the ability to handle a surplus of horsepower. Here we go. Brilliant job on both sides, and Doug Coletta says, Sonny, not so quick. 0.36 reaction time for Coletta. Ashley was 40 on the tree, and Doug Coletta prevails.
You know, and Justin Ashley, again, lightning quick off the starting line, but in the other lane, Brian, you continually talk about him being among the most respected. But I don't know that anyone would argue, although he has not won a championship, considered one of the premier top fuel drivers over the last 20 years, and he has seen kids like Justin Ashley come and go. 36 on the starting line. That's a statement right there. Don't worry, kid. I got you.
We take a look back to 1963 at the Winternationals, and it's the first time that the top fuel category was ever contested. Don Garlits, you can see him in his front-engine dragster, a dragster he was actually mocked about having that wing on there. Fellow competitors said, "What are you doing that for?" And Garlits said, "Mark my words, one of these days, every single one of these things will have a wing on it." Of course, he was right, and how fitting that the greatest drag racer of all time won the very first version of Top Fuel Eliminator here at the Winternationals. Leah Pritchett, Sean Reed on the starting line, and we're going to go to the top end.
Well, Doug Coletta goes to the semis, looking for your third win here and straight at the Winternationals. Were you aware of how well Justin Ashley's been on the tree? Because you got a 36 on that.
Yeah, all these guys are hitting the tree hard, so yeah, I'm trying to stay with him. You know, it's one of them deals, but just happy to be getting by him. We got a new look with the Mac Tools car this year, and just happy to be going around so far. So we'll see how we do.
Leah Pruitt in the Mopar, top fueler. And here comes Sean Reed. Hughes Oilfield Transportation, the sponsor for Sean Reed, completing his burnout. And Leah making tracks backed up to the starting line. Cackling and idling her way back. You had a chance to talk to Todd Okuhara. Tell me about the experience. We heard the interview, but what else did you glean down there?
Well, one of the things that I really keyed on were the new tires. When I walked in his pit, I saw a brand new set of tires now, and there's also new tires on the car right now. And what that does is that new tire versus a used tire, the sidewall is not broke in, so it's a little stiffer. The surface right there on the slick is a little smoother, so that tire is going to give you a little more wheel speed. That's just one of the many tuning adjustments that these tuners will look at. Occasionally in these conditions, even a smaller diameter tire, just again to get this car accelerating early in a run. I knew better not to ask him what he did because I didn't want to insult him. I knew he wasn't going to tell me.
Ron Douglas tuning for Sean Reed. Here we go. Sean Reed, oh man, Sean Reed had an 041 light. Leah was 130, and he was off to the races until they let the fire out of the top of the engine. Leah Pritchett, 368.5, 326, and a volcanic burp for Sean Reed ends his day.
Yeah, and Sean Reed went from one extreme to the other. Leah's soul must have left her body, or at least started to, because as a driver, especially in one of these top fuel cars, through your peripheral vision, you can actually see the driver. If he's got about a car on you can see the front end of his car, and you can see that Sean Reed jumped out there, but it wasn't much longer after that his car encountered problems, not recovering from what they did in the first round. And one of the qualifying runs, they had problems. You could see one of the cylinders out on Sean Reed's car, that fire hose right there. It puts a lot more stress on the engine. The blower explodes, and Leah has some difficulty herself. Not the tune-up that we saw in the first round, but it does advance her.
Sean Reed's out. Leah Pruitt is in. Brittany Force, Doug Coletta next round. Austin Prock and Leah Pruitt. The 1, 5, 2, and 3 qualifiers. When we come back, it's time to burn more nitromethane, this time in the funny car category. It will be teammates battling each other. It'll be Jack Beckman, Ron Capps, and this man, Matt Hagan, a 2-time champion, trying to make it 3. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Auto Club Raceway Pomona. We see the thrash being performed on Antron Brown's Top Fuel Dragster. This is actually Brittany Force's Top Fuel Dragster. Brittany's a great driver. We talk about great drivers in drag racing, Tony. We have to bring up the late John Andretti, who passed just recently and had his own Top Fuel career.
Yeah, what an amazing person. What an amazing driver. Had success in IndyCar, NASCAR, IMSA. And, of course, close to us, the NHRA Top Fuel Dragster, Jack Clark, semifinalist at the Atlanta Dragway Nationals. And I saw John 5-6 months ago. He was at Newcastle, a go-kart track in Indianapolis. You know what he was there for? He was there for a charity. Great guy.
Great guy. Has raised millions of dollars on behalf of Riley Hospital for Children in Indianapolis. The entire NHRA family mourns the loss of John Andretti as we look at this wide shot from the Lucas Oil chopper high above the racetrack. Time to go funny car drag racing in round 2 as we have our competition ladder brought to us by Lucas Oil. Ron Capps and Jack Beckman on the starting line. The bodies come up. Intriguing pairings here. Hagan, Wilkerson. TJ, Tommy Johnson Jr. and John Force. Of course, Beckman and Capps, and then Height and DeJoria, rounding out the quadrant of pairings that we will see in this second round. The crowd has picked up. The thinner-blooded Californians have used that sunshine we've had peeking through the crowd to warm themselves up. They've found spots in the grandstands. We appreciate everybody coming and hanging out with us on a blustery day here in SoCal. Ron Capps and team recovering masterfully from their trailer fire. Looking pretty good here, but Jack Beckman and his team looking very strong in qualifying as the number 2 qualifier. See what they do here. Oh, a big explosion for Ron Capps means that Jack Beckman at 3.871 seconds, just shy of 330 miles an hour, advances, and the magic weekend for Ron Capps stops in round 2.
Yeah, that's a tough way for them to go out. It really started over a week ago in a tough position. They worked very hard just to get to this position that they're in. They had a very tough first-round opponent in Bob Tasca, but right there you could see the explosion. You could see these flaps that are just on the outside of the injector. You're going to watch those as the pressure builds in the body from that concussion and explosion, but it's not enough to relieve all of the pressure, so they may well be some damage with that Dodge body. In the other lane, it was Jack Beckman going right back to what that team did in qualifying, and that is to perform and perform well.
You can see this fire had some staying power there as you're going to watch Ron Capps scamper out of the top of the funny car, slide down the body, and it is amazing to me. Look, he's just going to walk down there and survey the situation, kind of try to realign the supercharger injector. Now he's trying to help the safety safari here.
Yeah, that's not theatrics. He knows that supercharger has to be positioned in the center just to get the body open. So, hey, Ron is just one of the veteran drivers, one of the experienced drivers that has a very close connection to his machine.
We see that cylinder out. It was on the right side of your screen, and then the blaze. A lot of times, Tony, these are flash fires, and again, this is slightly exaggerated because of super slow-mo, but this one did have a little bit more intensity in terms of duration of flame.
Yeah, and you can see that this car wasn't running like it should have. He should have been right alongside Jack Beckman, so there was likely some mechanical issue or something going wrong with that engine prior to the explosion, but to your point, it gets hot real quick because this driver is sitting directly behind the engine.
Fire can be man's best friend, but this year so far, it has been Ron Toler, Ron Capps' worst enemy. This is the aftermath of a trailer fire when they were heading to testing, which caused the team to work for weeks on end to prepare themselves for this race. They're back. They're running hard, but once again, they burned one up. Potentially the tightest pair of the second round here as John Force comes through the water box to face Tommy Johnson Jr. They ran within 0.02 of a second in that first round of eliminations. We'll find out what they can do here as we go down to Bruno Massa with more on Tommy Johnson Jr.
Brian, talking with Tommy Johnson, the staging lanes before this matchup, he thinks those 2000s can be a very significant for their team. He said because it gives them lane choice and lets them to stay out of the right lane. For their specific tune-up, there's a bump, he said, where the clutch comes in and is causing havoc for the team. It's hard for them to maneuver. Obviously, everyone has a different combination. For them, though, not an ideal situation. So being in the left lane and going 387, they were low of the session in that first round. They've got an opportunity to pick at that tune-up. Said there's a couple hundreds at least left into it without being overly aggressive. Have a lot of confidence, he said, but you never want to take John Force lightly, but at least we've got the lane we wanted.
I find that to be very interesting what Bruno said about them thinking they have a couple hundredths left in that tune-up. That's a bunch of time when we're talking about a mid-380 run.
Yeah, and that's no surprise for that team. We've seen them run very well on several occasions. The consistency is the only thing that team has lacked. But right now, it's going to be interesting what these two drivers do on the starting line. John Force has a reputation of not preferring to stage first. We're going to see how Tommy plays this one.
And it's Tommy Johnson Jr. That's the pedal. Here comes John by the center line. Wow, it does appear that all the foam cubes stayed glued to the racetrack. John Force, 401.1, 275. And Tony, by God, he paid to use the whole right lane. He used every inch of it.
Yeah, you know, and sometimes these cars just don't want to go straight. Maybe John Force was looking over to see where Tommy was, but as you can clearly see, there was raw fuel coming out of the left bank. When you lose the pressure on that side, you've got 3 cylinders versus 4 cylinders. 4 cylinders are going to push the car to the inside of the lane. John Force, I'm sure, is fighting it, but he doesn't want to get off the throttle because he wants to get to that finish line. So to some degree, these drivers get something similar that pilots get. They get fixation. He's got his sights set on that finish line. Wasn't the case. He got close to it, but as long as he doesn't go over that center line, the run is good.
We now go down to the top end with Jack Beckman, and you're going to hear it in his voice. He does not sound healthy.
Jack Beckman's been battling through a little sickness here this weekend, but you are headed to the semis. You won here in the fall. How important is it early in the season to gel with your team?
So, like, we never go to a race and you say, this one's not that important, guys. We'll use it to test. Everyone's important. I've won the Winternationals, but never a Nitro, and winning here in November was awesome. To try to get 8 rounds at Pomona for our Dodge Charger, that would be bad, you know what. So for Pennzoil, for Infinite Hero, you know what, we're changing lives. We're doing this coin program, we're raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for the injured vets. It's been dramatic. You know, last round I had a fire, looks like Cap's had an issue here. I told his guys I'm available tomorrow, I'll come clean some more. I did last week, so on we go.
Man, begin to sing It's a Wonderful World and get a whole Louis Armstrong thing going on with his voice there as we see Alexis DeJoria here, the Rocket Phone sponsored Nitro Funny Car, her comeback beginning with a round win, but boy, she has the defending champion, Robert Hight, to her left. The crowd again trickling into the grandstands here as they're watching funny cars under gray skies. Robert Hight smokes the tires. Alexis has to lift, but she is so far out, she's going to get the win light. 5.388 seconds, 136 miles an hour. Del Worsham with a slightly incredulous smile and nod of the head, and there is John Paul DeJoria right there. Thumbs up.
Well, right off the starting line, it was a good starting line advantage for Robert Hight, but either one or two things happened with Robert. A lot of drivers have a tendency to try to pursue the run just out of instinct. You could see the AAA car lose traction initially, and his car either expired, it quit running, maybe it threw the belt off, but he never, I don't think that was the case. He just opted to not get back in the throttle. Now, I'm not saying he could have chased Alexis down, but at that point, as soon as her car lost power, Robert's got to be thinking, man, maybe I should have got back on the throttle of this thing.
Amanda's down with the last remaining JFR funny car driver, John Force.
John, we took a look at the replay and saw the car pull into the center line. How hard were you fighting that?
I couldn't get it off. I had a lift. I figured Tommy would drive right by me. But, you know, rules get into play. Got to be careful. Got to protect the other driver. But the good Lord's overlooking, watching over Auto Club Raceway. No rain. We thought it was going to rain. So I'm excited. I drive for Blue Def, Chevrolet, and all these sponsors. And I just love what I'm doing. So pretty excited right now. Just got to get back, get ready to go again.
Back into the pit area, Jack Beckman's crew working without surgical masks on. They're not afraid of catcher, whatever he's got. They're just trying to keep that funny car healthy. It will be Jack in round number 3, facing Alexis. Jack Beckman's teammate Matt Hagan back at the starting line right now. Hagan, the number 3 finisher in points in 2019, and Bruno Massel has more on Matt Hagan.
For Matt Hagan, that 391 is exactly what Dickie Venables had asked it to do in that first qualifying set or first round of eliminations. And what they told me the strategy for this year is we have to win the rounds we're supposed to win. And then we have to be able to have the confidence and the ability to step it up when we need to step it up. And we're going to have to do that against Wilkerson right here. But we think we've got the tune-up to do just that.
The clarity, it's like the guy's sitting right next to me. It's unbelievable. Dropping knowledge on Matt Hagan. Tim Wilkerson, on the other hand, he had a negative experience with my own Tony Pedregon back in 1998-ish, 1997. You thumped him in the first round.
Yes, and don't you forget it, Tim. I'm safe to say that because he's down there, I'm up here. But, you know, for Matt Hagan, they're going to have to go back to what they were doing in qualifying. They're going to have to step it up because Tim Wilkerson made an exceptional run in that first round.
Pre-stages Matt Hagan, Tim Wilkerson, trying to get some momentum behind him to get this 2020 campaign started. Wilkerson forced to pedal. Man, Hagan was working the throttle late in that run. You saw the header flames dipping and coming up repeatedly. 4.042 seconds at 284. Some veteran driving there for Hagan.
Yeah, it really was. And you know, one of the things that these funny car drivers do is when the car loses traction, of course, they're going to react because the tires are breaking traction. Now, occasionally, I'm going to take a look as Matt Hagan leaves. Now, I didn't really see a lot of white smoke off of the tires. However, you see those black tracks that he left. That meant the car was spinning the tires. He responded well. It did it a little farther down on the racetrack than what usually happens with these funny cars.
The semi-final round pits Matt Hagan against John Force. John Force will have lane choice. Jack Beckman will take on Alexis DeJoria. The number 2 qualifier has lane choice. And now we go to the top end of the racetrack with a dejected Robert Hight.
Robert, as you saw Alexis have issues down track, would you have gotten back on it in that case?
Yeah, I probably should have, but when mine smoked the tires, you got to be at the hit. You've got to be a little slow at getting back at it. You get back at it too quick, you're going to smoke tires. And she was gone, and I gave up. So that's going to be a tall order to run 538, pedaling it and smoking the tires at the hit.
The amount of self-control these drivers have to exhibit is to not get themselves in trouble, demonstrated right there. Alexis DeJoria, she's in. The smile will get even wider as she competes in the semi-final round of Nitro Funny Car. John Force still in, chasing a 17th World Championship, chasing another win at the Winternationals. We'll be back with more after this. Welcome back to Pomona, California, and welcome to the Mello Yello Powerhouse, the main station in the center of the pits where families and fans can go hang out. I mean, I even find Bruno in there sometimes sipping on a little Mello Yello.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta have a little me time, you know what I mean? Just kind of sit back, relax, take it all in, and that is a great place to do it.
Interactive funny car exhibit. There's a lot of stuff to do down there, including even photos with a World Championship NHRA Wally. Let's get into some highlights from the second round of Pro Stock Eliminator here. And the first pair we're going to take a look at is Matt Hartford and Erica Enders as we take a peek at our competition ladder to see who the 8 cars are that are left. Left-hand side, you see Coughlin and McGahey, Delco Graham. Right side, Quadra Jr. taking on Jason Line, Enders, and Hartford. This first pair we're going to watch had a very strange ending because it's ended before it started.
It did. You watch Matt Hartford here. He doesn't get the car staged in time. You've got 7 seconds from the time that your opponent is fully staged, and he just missed that window of going in. I'm trying to take a close look there to see if there's a mechanical problem. Sometimes there's some gamesmanship being played right there. It doesn't seem like that was the case because it doesn't look like his car ever even moved forward. So I don't know if it's something in the clutch, something in the settings, but nonetheless, he timed out, and he will not get a chance to race.
It does look like he tried to inch it ahead, but just not quick enough.
So Erica Enders, though, she fixed some of the problems they had with that car because it was every way but straight going down in that first round of eliminations.
Enders, one of several drivers suffering from the creeping crud this weekend. She's feeling ill today on this Sunday. So we can see Jason Line taking on the younger of the Quadra family. Quadra on the left-hand side, Fernando Jr., Jason Line on the right side.
Jason Line is hard on himself with his driving, but he does a good job getting the car down a racetrack. Fernando Quadra Jr. there was rolling. He tried to get a rolling start, take a shot at the tree. 041 didn't go his way, but Jason Line, 50 on the tree. You're not going to beat his chest over about that, but he is moving on to the semifinals.
There is a very, you understand in Pro Stock perhaps more than any other category when you come into a round what your advantage or disadvantage is on performance because these cars do run fairly consistent. So for Quadra Jr., knowing he was kind of off Jason's pace by a couple of tenths, he had no chance but to try to shoot the bottom bulb out of the tree.
You can't blame a guy for taking a shot, right? And that's what you have to do if you want to try and win here in the Mello Yello Series.
The feel-good round, or pair of the round, Steve Graham and Kenny Delco. Delco, that number 4 qualifying position, is going to advance because Steve Graham has problems.
If you look at Steve Graham, he's all over the racetrack there. Kenny Delco, 076. He was 00 the round before. Might have been a little gun-shy, knowing he had the performance advantage and kind of sat back a little bit. He's not going to be able to keep advancing at that level he does so, but he did what he needed to do. But what's the white smoke on that thing off the starting line?
There is a seal leaking in the intake manifold. Only when it's on the 2-step is it pulling oil into the engine. As the car goes down the racetrack, it is not. You don't see it smoking because it's not pulling the oil through. That's why you see the big cloud up there. Now we see our final pair here, Chris McGahey and Jeg Coughlin Jr. And Jeg Coughlin Jr., that yellow Jegs.com machine is looking real tough.
I mean, he has been the quickest car every single session, including eliminations, and he continues to do that right here every round. He is quicker than everybody else, and when you've got the natural doing that, that is a very tough package to beat. 028 on the tree, wins from both ends of the racetrack.
On our semifinal pairings, Line Enders, Coughlin, and Delco. Could it be an all-elite motorsports final in this first race?
Well, not Kenny Delco has anything to say about that for sure. He is the feel-good story of the weekend, a guy who's been around for a long time, one with the good old people, the good old guys here in drag racing. He's got a car that is performing this weekend.
Got a lot of new faces in the NHRA this year. We'll see more and more throughout the year. Breaking into the world of motorsports is very hard. We have a special guest with us today to talk about a new program and his own generosity to help young people bust into motorsports. Welcome back inside our broadcast booth here in Pomona, California. Brian Loans, Tony Pedregon, and Mr. Terry Vance. I have upped the celebrity horsepower big time in the booth here. And Terry, you've made a $1 million donation to the NHRA, which will go on to fund a brand new program called the NHRA Launch Program, which is going to really revolutionize the way people go job hunting in motorsports. Let's talk about the program and why you made this donation.
Right, Brian. It's NHRA Launch, and really and truly, a couple of years ago, we talked about the program and talked about what we could do to maybe help the kids find a place to to get employment where in the motorsports business, and we talked about it back and forth. We decided we really need a place that's an online portal where kids can get involved, get their resume cleaned up, and find a career path. And NHRA Launch is going to solve that problem. Glenn Cromwell and I talked about it quite a bit. He said, hey, we're going to need some money. So we've stepped up and got the money part of it taken care of. And I'm really excited, Brian, because I went to the YES program the other day, 4,000 kids in that building. That's really impressive. And you think about the next step, there's probably nothing more intimidating than when you're out looking for a job. You got to get your resume together. You got to find the right place. And this is a really great thing that NHRA is doing, because if you think about it, they're the only motorsports organization that actually has a portal where you could actually, as an employer, get people, and also as a job seeker, get employment.
And this is already working. You actually met a young man that was working on Stephen Denham's funny car this weekend that got the job through NHRA Launch.
Right. We met down below. He was really excited, young Brian, and the crew stood there and clapped for him. It was really exciting. It was a nice moment. But Gary Denham gets total kudos because he worked with Wally to actually start the YES program. So now the launch thing will be the next bridge that actually helps the young guys that are involved in trade schools or whatever get placed in the motorsports business.
You know, Terry, we talk a lot about youth and drag racing. There's actually a team here from Santa Maria, California, a high school team, and it's all high school kids running this weekend. And again, this is where the future is, and this is what Launch is going to help grow.
That's exactly right, Brian. And, really and truly, it is really hard to get, like Force's team. If you want to be on Force's team, who do you talk to? How do you get there? If you want to work for Schumacher, or you want to go to work at Jegs, or, any of the guys, right? So it's like Launch is going to solve that problem. Our plea is to all the people that have motorsports career opportunities to make sure they get involved with Launch, and then have the kids be able to have a wide abundance of places to look at.
Yeah, and the scope of this goes far beyond the crew members. If you're someone who has a local drag strip, if you're a local drag strip, right, you need someone to work your clocks, you need someone to work the water box. Right. If you're a kid like I was when I was like 19 years old and lived and died going to my local track and got a job as a Wednesday night track announcer, that's where it all starts for many of us. We all have that grassroots story, and that's what Launch is designed to do.
And Brian, that's where you're really the most vulnerable, right? Because you don't know what to do. You don't know where to go. Launch is going to solve that problem.
I still don't know what to do or where to
go. Launch is going to solve that problem. And when you think about the sport of drag racing, I've gotten so much from it, Brian. This is a great opportunity for me to give something back and really kind of fulfill Wally's dream about what this sport was really all about. I'm really proud to be involved with it and be involved with the guys.
Well, we are so happy that you are involved with it, so happy about Terry's passion for motorsports, and NHRA Launch will begin to launch the careers of the next generation of motorsport enthusiasts. Heck of a guy. Terry Vance stepping up to the plate. We have an opportunity to do something interesting here at the Winternationals. There have never been 3 female winners on the same day at the same NHRA national event. At the race where Shirley Shahan became the first female national event winner in 1965, could we see these 3 women climb all the way to the top of the Winternationals hill and get the 2020 season started? Stick with us. We are back here in Pomona, California. We mentioned the potential for 3 female winners today. To do that, they have to get to the finals. The first one to have a shot at it's Brittany Force. Leah Pruitt will be coming in the next pair. Doug Coletta on the racetrack next to Brittany Force. So now we see our competition ladder. Force and Coletta. Brittany and her team, led by David Grubnick, did have lane choice. Austin Prock and Leah Pruitt will be up next. Prock will have lane choice. Tony, there is no getting around the fact that Doug Coletta, 99% of the time against Brittany Force, is going to leave the starting line first. But Brittany Force has David Grubnick in her back pocket. He has the huge horsepower and the gnarliest tune-up in the joint. Do they have enough power to get around a human advantage that Doug Coletta holds?
It's going to be hard for the Doug Coletta car to outperform Brittany. That's just a fact, based on qualifying, based on what we've seen in the first 2 rounds. However, what gives Doug a good chance is he is consistently a little quicker than everyone on the starting line. He's going to have to execute that, but he also dipped that car down, ran a couple of hundreds quicker. He's only 200s away from the performance of Brittany. So if they do anything, at least maintain that performance. If not, try to get a little bit more and rely on your driver.
You saw the logo of Fifth Third Bank, the newest sponsor for Coletta Motorsports. Connie Coletta has attended every single running of the NHRA Winternationals. Will he see Doug go to another final? At the top end, it's Doug Coletta, 367.5, and look at that team's confidence, 329 miles an hour. Oh, a crushing elapsed time, the best ET of Doug Coletta's career. Brittany Force goes 368.9 at 332 miles an hour, and Coletta sets himself up to go 3 in a row at Pomona.
What we're seeing is a work in progress with this Mack Tool dragster. We saw signs of brilliance. Typically hasn't been a top 3 car. Top 5, top 6, yes, but the driver is definitely top 2 or 3, and that's really what's kept this team in the running. However, they have now found in front of us, before our eyes, the kind of performance that will allow them to compete with anyone. He gave it to her on the starting line. He outperformed her on the racetrack.
Brittany did step up her launch 0.72 reaction time, but Doug Coletta, the 9th time he's been in the semifinal round here at the Winternationals, he is 9-0. Leah Pruitt and Austin Prock. Right side of the racetrack, or right side of your screen, I should say, is Leah. Now we get a look at John Force coming around the corner. He looking to advance into the final round as Austin Prock, his young teammate, sits before him. A bit of a reverse opportunity than what Austin Prock had to experience in Seattle last year, where he was sitting behind John when John won his 150th race, and then he went on to win his first. We have more about Austin Prock with Bruno Massel.
Very cool moment I witnessed earlier this morning. The mentor and the protege, John Force, when I was talking to Austin, came up on the scooter and said, hey, it's early, it's cooler than could be, it might be a rattle deal. Make sure you're ready, but it'll recover quick. When Austin went out there and did just that, John looked at me and said, that's why I love that kid, because he listens and he learns.
When John Force speaks and you're a drag racer, if you're not listening, that is a grave mistake. Leah trying to make her second final round ever at the Winternationals, won this race back in 2017. Prock trying to make his second final ever. Reaction times identical to the thousands, and Austin Prock, for the second time in his short career, is going to a final round. The last one he was in was Seattle. We know what happened there.
What Leah needed to do was keep pace with him on the starting line. She did exactly that, but they also needed a little bit of performance. Based on what Austin Prock had run in the previous round, I don't think any tuner wants to go up and not outrun or not outperform. A lot of times it'll fall on the driver's shoulders, but for Leah, more than likely they went to what they had done in qualifying that worked so well, and maybe the track conditions changed enough, or maybe they even tried to improve that performance. It didn't hold. Lost traction at about the 8th mile.
The final round matchup will be Doug Coletta taking on Austin Prock. The legacies involved here. Connie Coletta's been to every single Winternationals, and Austin Prock being mentored by the 1965 Top Fuel winner Don Prudhomme. What's cooler than this? The NHRA 101 Walking Tour, which takes place all weekend long at NHRA events, is a great way for experienced and new fans to find the layout of these expansive racetracks, to find where their favorite drivers are pitted, and to interact with the drivers in a fun, loose environment down in the pits. Joe Costello leads these tours and does a great job, whether we're talking about the nostalgic Pro Stock cars that are here this weekend or the highest level of Top Fuel and nitromethane-powered funny car drag racing. You'll see it all on the NHRA 101 Walking Tour. Matt Hagan and John Force. This is a scene that we have witnessed play out many times over the years. John Force is looking to make his 11th final round appearance at the Winternationals. He has won this race 7 times. Neither of these guys come into this round on the strongest foot as we look at our final 2 pairings in the semifinal round. Hagan Force on the racetrack now, and then Beckman DeJuria will be following. We go to Matt Hagan, Tony. They ran 4:04 to get here. Was ugly, but they got in.
Yeah, and I think the case with both these teams, they lost cylinders. That means one of the cylinders was no longer firing, and we typically see that when it's warm and when it's humid, because that moisture displaces the air that goes into the engine, making it much harder to burn the fuel. However, they load these cars up with more fuel. They're more aggressive because the conditions are cool. If they don't, the cars will have a tendency to go lean. They'll scuff pistons, they'll scuff the cylinders, and ultimately they'll blow up. So they're both going to have to make some of those adjustments with their fuel curve, more than likely. But on paper, Matt Hagan has had a good car all weekend. Force has come to life. At least he did in the first round.
The 1977 Winternationals were the very first NHRA national event John Force entered. He has been here more times as a competitor than anybody in the Nitro Funny Car ranks by a long shot. Matt Hagan cares nothing for history. Here we go. John Force employing the Smart Park app by going in there deep and parking her in 392.3, 331.28 miles an hour. The deep staging maneuver ultimately didn't need it, but he goes 032 on the tree.
Yeah, and deep staging in this class, and this is something that John Force does so often. He does well. It's a little bit of a psychological thing for drivers. Now, he's utilizing some of the real estate. The clock doesn't start until that front tire breaks the beam. So there's about 7 inches worth of rollout, and that's the amount of the circumference of the tire. So when he lights the top light, he'll actually roll in a little deeper into the beam, and it's going to cheat the elapsed time a little bit. It's going to improve the reaction time. It'll slow the elapsed time a little, but Force isn't concerned with that. He is only concerned with getting to the finish line, which is what he did. Problems set in early for Matt Hagan.
This week's E3 Spark Plugs Encyclopedia is all about that deep staging process, and it means to roll the car in a few inches past the fully staged position. You knock out the top bulb, you might cheat a little elapsed time, but boy, it gets you out of the hole quick. John Force is heading to his 258th career Nitro Funny Car final round. So John Force rounds the bend. 2 more funny cars heat their tires. Jack Beckman, the Infinite Hero Dodge SRT Hellcat-bodied machine. And then, of course, Alexis DeJoria making her way back to the starting line in the Toyota Camry-bodied Nitro Funny Car. Kind of a unique thing here is that both of these drivers share a couple of interesting similarities. They both are winners in national events in Super Comp and in the Funny Car category. It's kind of an interesting thing, Tony, when you see these drivers that come through the sportsman ranks and make it this high up. We don't normally associate Alexis with being a Super Comp racer, but she was good.
Yeah, and it seems like everyone has a tendency to forget that, but that's one of the biggest reasons that it's seamless when they make the transition, because they have that experience in competition, and it's only helped both of them.
She is 6-16 racing Jack Beckman in her career, so the numbers don't exactly favor her in this situation, but frankly, the numbers in terms of the number of runs they've made and the amount of experience they've had as a crew working together haven't favored them all day long, and it hasn't slowed them down an inch.
Hey, you can almost see a couple of little sprinkles on the lens there. There's a starter that stands right in the center of these 2 cars. If he feels anything, he's going to shut them off, but it does appear both of these drivers are going into stage.
Alexis off the throttle, and Jack Beckman into another final round at Pomona. He's trying to win this race for the first time in a Nitro Funny Car. He's done it in Super Comp, and he goes 3.843 seconds to get lane choice in the final at 332 miles an hour.
Yeah, I don't know that anything would have beat that 384. This is a very strong team. They've only missed the beat one time. That was during eliminations, but they're back to what they were doing in qualifying. Every single qualifying run, this car was amongst the top 3. Here's another good run, but take a look at Alexis, wide open throttle. You can see there's the header flames. What appeared to be a good launch. Shortly after this, the car just loses power, and a lot like the Matt Hagan car in that same lane. Let's take a look at those rear Goodyears. You can see them wobbling right now. The track is really tight, but she's closing the throttle blades. More than likely, she can feel that car shaking. It's hard for us to detect it because those Goodyears are stashed underneath that carbon fiber body.
The funny cars are being pushed off the top end of the racetrack, and the pro stock competitors are ready to rock and roll, including Erica Enders and Jason Line, who are set for a rematch of their historic winner-take-all final round that was run at this drag strip at the World Finals back in 2014. There's the red Melling Performance Camaro, Erica Enders inside, and Jason Line is in his Summit Racing Camaro. They'll be up when we come back. Pro Stock time, semifinal round here at the 2020 running of the NHRA Lucas Oil Winternationals. And Brian Loans once again joined by Bruno Massel in the booth for this semifinal round in Pro Stock. And when we talk about the best of the best, 2 of them on the racetrack against each other right now, Bruno and Jason Line and Eric Enders.
You know, I flash back to that World Championship on the line where right here in this spot, these 2 squared off, and it was a double red light. Actually, Jason got the red light, and Erica got the championship. So there's no love lost between these 2 teams, let alone these 2 drivers.
The second pair we'll see will be Jed Coughlin Jr., who has announced his retirement at the end of 2020, and Kenny Delco, who is having a great weekend, making his second semifinal in as many years, the last one coming at the Gator Nationals in 2019. So we look at Elite versus KB Racing in 2019. Of course, Erica was the champion. KB won 11 races, Elite 6. Bo Butner had the most wins of anybody in Pro Stock with KB Power. #1 starts. Elite had the most #1 qualifying runs, but Erica Enders, top and bottom, low ET of the season and the championship.
You know, both these teams really, really strong. They've got a number of cars they're fielding out here each and every single weekend, which means they've got a lot of data to go off of, and that's how you get such a refined package for both these cars. Now, in the last session of eliminations, Erica was 100th slower than Jason, but Jason was about 400 slower in reaction time, and that's something that really plays into the game here in Pro Stock. It's not to say that Jason isn't capable of stepping up, but Erica is always at that high level on the reaction time.
You can hear the intensity there, the message being relayed to Erica Enders, the demand, if you will, to take the fight to Jason Line off the starting line.
Nobody in a hurry to stage, that's for sure.
They're within 7 thousandths on the Christmas tree. It will be a horsepower contest, a mechanical arm wrestling match to the finish line that goes to Jason Line. 6.582 seconds, 208.94 miles an hour, and I would argue there is no sweeter round win for a KB racing car than beating an Elite Motorsports entry.
Jason picked it up a touch. Erica slowed it down a touch in reaction time. Then you look through the incrementals and through first 60 feet, Jason Line was about 100th better, and he just kept increasing that gap all the way down the racetrack.
His 9th final round and 17 Pomona starts, and now we go to Amanda Busick with John Force.
Well, in his hunt for his 17th championship, John Force is in the finals here at the Winternationals. And you told us in qualifying that Austin Coyle had said something special to you. You didn't tell us what it was, but how are you using that here today?
Austin Coyle told me, with all the problems, financial, sponsors, decals are wrong, NHRA, rule books, all of that, don't take that to the starting line. Take your heart to the starting line. And if you can find your heart, you can race. And I can go out here and a kid like Hagan will come over and tell me, good job. I look at him and I go, look, this don't even seem possible to beat this guy. And yet I got a race car with Daniel Hood that's doing great, and Ronnie Thompson and Fabrizi. And I'm just happy. I'm glad to be alive. I'm going to stick around a while.
The emotion catching up to John Force. Now it's time for this race's peak Did You Know? And this week, Tony, the letter A for acceleration.
Well, acceleration is something that's one of the most impressive things about this sport. And you can see within 60 feet, nearing 100 miles an hour. Now, this is about 330 feet. This car is already accelerated at 200 miles an hour. And now this is the 8th mile, 174 miles an hour. A long way to go. It'll eventually get to 330.
That 174-mile-an-hour speed was the highest speed recorded at the 1961 Winternationals at the quarter-mile finish line. Our Nitro Funny car going 330 miles an hour in 1,000 feet. Oh, how things have changed in the last half century plus. Bruno, even our gasoline-burning Pro Stockers would blow that dragster to the weeds that ran in 61.
Yes, they will. You know, these things are no joke. They accelerate quick. You know, they're shifting the thing just past the 1 second mark into the run, and then you got to bang gears 4 more times, and that's the guy who does it better than just about anybody. It's Jed Coughlin Jr. He's had the best car each and every run, and arguably one of the best drivers. Kenny Delco, though, I'll tell you, he's got the capability of knocking him off here. He can pull out some of that 007 magic he had in round number 1. Jeggy's going to have his hands full.
Yeah, Jeggy's not made the final round of this race since back in 2013, so kind of a stretch for him. And Delco, 3rd career final is what he's seeking. He's not been in a final since, well, let's see, Ronald Reagan. No, it would have been Bill Clinton was in office. Or George Bush. Crazy. Jake Coughlin's out by 200ths. Kenny Delco trying to hang in there for this one, and it will be Jake Coughlin heading to the final round as Delco 671.6 at 180 miles an hour. He had the clutch in. That car seemed to be moving around. No problems for Jake Coughlin. 653.5 at 210, and once again, KB Racing and Elite clash in the final.
Right now, Jeggy has the car, the class of the field, 653, just getting quicker and quicker each and every run. Here's another look at it from the starting line there. Nothing wrong with that run. A lot of the cars wavering around the racetrack. That thing stays in the groove, glued from A to B, shoots out, and he's going to the finals.
Now we take a look at the Infinite Hero team that is servicing their Nitro Funny car. See, the engine has already been pulled down. The head gaskets being taken off the engine. They'll be making one of those critical tuning changes with the thickness of those head gaskets. We'll catch you up on how that plays out a little bit later. But John Force will be the foe of Jack Beckman in the final. These guys want to stop him. Now it's time to take a look at our semifinals in the Mickey Thompson Top Fuel Harley-Davidson category. Here is how those semifinals shaped up. Randall Andrus has lane choice over Tim Kerrigan, and Ty Tharp has lane choice over Jay Turner. It's the 1 and 5 qualifiers on the left side, the 2 and 3 qualifiers on the right side. These 1,000-pound, 1,000-horsepower machines love this air as much as the big boys do. As you see Jay Turner on the right side of your screen, Ty Tharp on the left. He is a 2-time and defending world champion. Tony, we saw a highlight of you earlier in the show suffering a funny car fire. These guys lived through that trauma basically every run on one of these things.
At least I can say I was strapped in. You know, fire's fire, but I mean, this is really one of the ultimate vehicles in our sport. You know, 1,000 pounds, it includes a rider, but 1,000 horsepower. And look at the speed, the top end speed of 213 miles an hour, and it didn't let the front tire down until about 800 feet.
Ty Tharp starting his final round, or his championship defense off of the final round appearance. Now it's Tim Kerrigan on the left side and Randall Andrus on the right. Andrus, the #1 qualifier, goes to the final round when Tim Kerrigan goes 36 thousandths red, and you will see Randall Andrus and how fired up he is. Once the parachute blossoms, once the mile an hour comes down, you're going to see a visceral and physical reaction from him, the fist pump. He was super excited about advancing. Andrus and Tharp go to the final, and Ty Tharp with lane choice as he tries to go 3 in a row for world championships, and it would be him a great service to start with a win here at the Winternationals. Jeg Coughlin is in his final year of driving full-time in Pro Stock. He announced his retirement earlier this weekend. Jason Line is in his final year of driving in Pro Stock. He announced his retirement last month. John Force, he's never announced his retirement. And get this for a fun fact to know and cheer. Of the 7 times John Force has won the Winternationals, 5 of those times the season has ended with him as a world champion. They're warming up the engines. We're all warmed up. The final rounds are coming up when we come back from Pomona. Welcome back to the final rounds of the 60th running of the NHRA Lucas Oil Winternationals, presented by Protect the Harvest. The time has come to hand out these Wallies, some of the most historic we've ever given out in NHRA history. Just 2 months ago, we saw some familiar faces in final rounds. One of them was Jeg Coughlin, who raced against Fernando Quadra in the final round of Pro Stock Eliminator and won a Wally. A very nice day for him and a great way to close the season. And then it was Jack Beckman, who in a bizarre turn of events didn't have to race anyone in the final because Robert Height's car quit near the lane, and he roared down the racetrack and picked up an NHRA Finals Wally. You see him with the elated look on his face. And oh, by the way, the guy who won Top Fuel, Doug Coletta, he's in the final as well. Coletta had to beat his own teammate, Richie Crampton, to take home the honors, and Doug Coletta closed his season with a win. All 3 of these racers are back in the final rounds, and we'll find out who will be taking the Wallies home this afternoon. Jeg Coughlin is moments away from coming around the corner as he prepares himself for the Pro Stock final during his last season as a Pro Stock driver. Now we have our Harley-Davidson showdown, talking about the final round in the Mickey Thompson Top Fuel Harley-Davidson category. Randall Andrus, the seasoned and grizzled racer from down there in Bayou Country, and Ty Tharp, the back-to-back and defending world champion in Top Fuel Harley.
Yeah, right from the start, Randall Andrus rolled his bike off of the trailer, qualified in the 2nd position, but improved that. He comes in this matchup as the #1 qualifier.
Ty Tharp trying to ride this wave of momentum that has carried him for basically 3 seasons, and he wants to get this one kicked off. Andrus on the Toyota side, E3 side for Ty Tharp. Look at Andrus hanging off the right side of his motorcycle. Both of them have the front end up. Look at Andrus laying the bike almost all the way over. He almost touched the center line but didn't. In 0:19 reaction time, and Randall Andrus 6:34.6. A study in guts right there.
Yeah, he's been running well over 200 miles an hour. And take a look what happens when that front end does finally settle down. He's in a push. He's using his body English. That front tire was actually slipping so much, you saw white smoke come off of it.
In slow motion, it's stunning. You can watch the firing pattern of the V-twin, the 2 cylinders, and we can watch this bike push its way over, almost shaking that rear slick. Watch how hard he has to lean into this thing. The front wheel skidding to catch up to speed. He is going over 200 miles an hour at this point. No thank you. Unbelievable. Randall Andrus.
Long time coming, baby. Yes. A great place to win a great race. Yes, man. Come on, Ty, get you some, boy.
I love it. Calling out Ty Tharp, but he wants to be a factor this year. It's time to move into the Pro Stock final round. Line versus Coughlin. It's going to be great.
Good to be driving again. It's just crazy.
Inside the race car, the Jegs.com Camaro of Jeg Coughlin Jr. Joining me back in the booth is Bruno Massel as we get ready to see two men who have racked up a total of 8 championships and 113 race wins. You are a multi-time champion in the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series Comp Eliminator category. Get inside their heads.
Right now, they're just thinking, I want to win a drag race. You know, both these guys said that they're retiring from driving at the end of the season. Both of them are now in finals. Maybe they should have said that each and every year. You know, Bo Butner said he was retiring. He won a championship. That's how things seem to work here in Pro Stock. Amongst these two guys, you've got 8 world championships. They've been there, they've done it. It's a lot of pride right now on the line. You know, Jason the Lion will tell you all day long. He's self-deprecating, tells you how he can't drive a race car, yada, 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 yet he continues to win drag races. Jed Coughlin doesn't say a whole lot. He just drives the heck off of a race car. So this should be a good matchup. On paper, if you look at the rounds, round by round, Jed's got him covered by 300 or 400 in terms of overall performance. So it's not to say KB Racing doesn't have the power under the hood, but it doesn't seem like they have the combination, the setup on the track right now that Jed does.
Nobody has the longevity in the sport of John Force at this professional level, but when we look at these two guys who have both, again, said they're going to retire at the end of the year, we've never really seen either of them have to resort to kind of going to the junk like an older pitcher has to go, right? They've never really had to go to the changeup in terms of what they do in the starting line or playing mental games. Jason as an engine builder is world class. Jeg as a lever and as a consistent racer is world class. And I think what's most interesting about the two career trajectories these two guys have is they did it in the same class but in different ways.
Totally. You know, I wouldn't be surprised right here to see Jason go in a little bit. He's been a 40 player at best today. Okay. Jeg has been a 20 player at best, and he knows he's got 400 or 500 he has to make up for in performance.
Jason Line, pre-stage in the Summit Racing Equipment Chevrolet Camaro. How fitting to kick off our 2020 season with these two old Lions getting ready to throw down to start us off. Jason Line is 0-18 on the Christmas tree. Jeg Coughlin's 0-27, and at the finish line stripe, it's Coughlin. 6:52.2, 210 miles an hour, low ET of the entire event. Jason Line 6:56.5 at 209, masterful work.
You know, for Jason Line, I'm going to give him credit. He staged that thing dead shallow. He didn't roll it in at all, and he was 18 on the tree. That's what a champion's able to do, is rise up. It just didn't have the performance that Jeg Coughlin has had for that Elite Motorsports team. They got quicker each and every single run, and that is flawless in these conditions. And you worry about getting too much wheel speed early in the run. Not the case here for Jeg Coughlin. And look at that thing, just another beautiful run. He's made 8 beautiful runs. I think count there for a second this weekend.
Jeggy last won the Winternationals 20 years ago. This is his 64th career victory in his NHRA professional drag racing career, and he is looking to go back-to-back, or he did just go back-to-back here at Pomona. The first of 3 guys that have the ability to win back-to-back, and it's never happened for all 3 classes to have that follow-up at the following Winternationals. Amanda Busick is with Jeg Coughlin.
Jeg Coughlin absolutely dominated here this weekend. And Jeg, you announced your retirement here this weekend. You're holding your third Wally. You're holding your third Wally here at the Winternationals. What memories will you take with you from this event?
Thanks, Jason. Memories that I never raced under was that famed Winternationals banner. You know, I was looking at the 60 years logo today and thinking, man, how cool would that be for that banner to be under us today? But what a win. Congrats to the whole Elite team, man. They've worked their tails off all winter long. To everyone back home at Jegs, thank you all for all the love and support. My family, Samantha, Carly, Jeggy, my pop. This win's for you, bud. This is, we've had a hell of a lot of good memories, and we're going to enjoy this one for sure. Thank you.
He will be strong all year long. The quickest man all weekend long. The 1972 Winternationals with Grumpy Jenkins in his famed Vega. You can see the banner that he was speaking about, the banner that hung over this racetrack for so many of those Winternationals races. Grumpy Jenkins in that 1972 Vega, between match racing and national event competition, earned $250,000 that year. He was the highest earning professional athlete in America, tied to the dime with Wilt Chamberlain. Imagine that. The Jegs.com crew going down the return road to greet their driver like a conquering hero. And when we come back, 2 of the greatest names in Nitro Funny Car Drag Racing square off in the final. Welcome back to the cloudy skies over Pomona, California. This view from the Lucas Oil Chopper that we've been checking in on all race long. It is a very cold and cloudy day here, but boy, has it been fast when it's needed to be. Coming up next on FS1, as soon as we're done here in Pomona, we'll trade horsepower for dog power. It's the Masters Agility Championship at the Westminster Dog Show in New York City. Starting around the bottom of the hour here on FS1. Tony, I have you pinned as a Bijan Frise man, but who knows? I know you're going to be watching that.
Well, we got a couple of dogs right now. They're looking to hunt.
John Force spent years calling his funny car the old hound dog. When he got on that one, he stuck with it for many seasons. That is the peak Blue Def Chevrolet Camaro coming back. And this is a replay. Thanks to Lewis Bloom for this stat here. This is a replay, if you will, a rematch of one of the most interesting final rounds in Nitro Funny Car drag racing history. What made it interesting? Well, for Jack Beckman, he set the national record and lost on a hole shot to John Force in the final in 2006. That's one you don't forget about. For John Force, trying to break a tie for wins at the Winternationals that he currently has with Bob Glidden. The first career race for John Force, the 1977 Winternationals, driving that awesome Brute Force car, the Brute Force Monza, sponsored by Yamaha of Buena Park. This was when he was certainly just getting off the blocks.
Well, as a child, I went to a lot of races, and it was a different John Force we were watching then. But one of the things that both of these drivers are doing is they are looking down the track of what they would both consider their home track.
Jack Beckman, remember, he has been ill all day long. We're looking inside the funny car of Jack Beckman here, looking up over toward him over the steering wheel. He's been battling a cold and flu-like symptoms all day, but it has not affected his ability to drive. And John Force on the opposite side of the racetrack. What a great battle, and it's Jack Beckman. We're 2 for 2 so far for Pomona Finals winners. 383.7, 333 miles an hour. Beckman was out second, but outpowered John Force.
John Force really needed to do something spectacular. He got a little bit off of the starting line, but not near enough. That was consumed within the first 60 feet. The increments for Jack Beckman everywhere throughout this 1,000-foot course were very impressive. The quickest run of the weekend.
The man who won his first national event in 1998 in the Super Comp category finally wins in a Nitro Funny Car here in Pomona, California, and by doing so goes low ET of the entire weekend. This is John Force.
This is John Force. You can see the downforce, and look at that rear spoiler, how low it is. And the reason it can be is because the conditions are so good. There's a lot of bite. But take a look at Jack Beckman. Very smooth, not a lot of steering motion. That means this car has been set up. It really lends itself to him getting it down the track pretty straight, which is going to help it run much quicker.
Beckman loves the history of drag racing by winning the Winternationals. He has won all the majors on the NHRA Tour. The final pair of cars at the 60th running of the Lucas Oil NHRA Winternationals under these cloudy skies will be Austin Prock and Doug Coletta. Doug Coletta is trying to do something no one has ever done, which is to win 3 consecutive events at this drag strip, and he seems poised to do it. He has been absolutely killer on the starting line.
Well, he's in a very nice groove, as he was this same time a year ago, as he was at the finals just 3 months ago. So it's a constant chess match between the tuners. They're going to look at their competition. They're going to take a look at the sheet, see what they did in qualifying, but more importantly, see what they have done today. Now, both of these tuners were very impressive in the semifinals, and they both have 2 drivers. Maybe they're just going to set these cars up and let the drivers duke it out on the starting line.
Doug Coletta has won the last 2 Winternationals. Connie Coletta sitting next to the racetrack. The runner-up here in Top Gas all the way back in 1961. Then we go to 1967. He's the Top Fuel Eliminator winner. 63 he was the runner-up at Top Gas. He has been to every single Winternationals. Can his team grab another victory? For Austin Prock, his second career final round. Will it result in his second career victory? Both are pre-staged. The end of the Winternationals is upon us. Instantaneous smoke for Austin Prock, with an 0.38 reaction time and an elapsed time of 3.698 seconds. We have done something that has never happened in the history of NHRA drag racing. All 3 winners in professional categories were the winners from the World Finals.
Something pretty amazing about this Coletta team. I can't remember that I've seen a combination with the driver of the quality of Doug Coletta and the performance, and this is something new for this team. So some of the changes that they've made within the last couple of years are really starting to pay, and you can see they were both good on the starting line, but like he's been all day, Doug Coletta slightly better. An instant loss of traction for Austin Prock, taking him really out of the game.
This has been an incredible day of competition. We see Austin Prock's car jump up on the tire. The NHRA Safety Safari has done a masterful job of intervening against the weather when they needed to finish this race under these conditions is amazing. And congratulations to Doug Coletta. More congratulations to Jack Beckman, who's with Amanda Busick right now.
Well, Jack, a funny car win is finally on your resume. I know you've been hunting this for a while, but not only that, it's the one from the 60th anniversary of the Winternational. And as the historian of this sport, how meaningful is that to you?
Jack Chrisman to Jack Beckman, that's pretty cool. But look, it took 10 of us to do this, from John and Guido and the 7 guys on their hands. But right here, that tribute to Terry Chandler. Doug Chandler has made this all possible. I told you we changed lives helping out the injured soldiers and veterans, but that's because this car doesn't take a dime. It raises money for the injured vets. Doug, we love you so much. Thank you for having the faith in us, and thank you for letting Terry live on.
Earlier, Bruno Massel caught up with his crew chief at the starting line.
Standing here in the starting line with Dean Antonelli, not only was it a tough racetrack today, but you mastered it, going 383, the low run of the entire weekend. What was the trick to get down this racetrack today?
Well, the conditions, and you get enough shots. You know, we messed up first round, and we tried too hard, and we actually pulled it back and then crept back up to where we were. Just the track conditions probably came to us, but a lot of good cars here early in the season, and other than a win, it's not going to matter in the countdown.
And we're back up here at the top, and this time with Doug Coletta holding the Winternationals trophy, his 3rd in the row from this event. You're the first to ever do this, Doug, and I know you get tired of this question, but why is this the year that you could win the championship?
Yeah, it's you know, just the 60th here is pretty special. I mean, I got Connie on my side, we got Don Perdome on the other side, so what a great day. You know, my guys, they busted their tails on this thing, and you know, just couldn't be more proud of the effort we put, everybody at the shop that was worked on this thing all winter long. We had Fifth Third as a new sponsor this weekend, and in NGK and Mobile One, and obviously the Mac Tools distributors. So, yeah, just a great day, and just couldn't be prouder to be out here with Connie and getting a win.
Congratulations.
As the crowd streams onto the drag strip where they're going to be greeting the winners at the starting line here, they will jump in the Mello Yello Express and come up to the starting line area to talk to the crowd.